Hello guys, today I am going to analyze Intel. I'll be talking about their financial report and giving you my opinion about them. An opinion which you may take into consideration. Before I get into Intel, I'd like to talk about the chip industry in general. I want to talk about the chip industry because of the current conflict. As you may know, Ukraine in the past supplied 90% of neon used in the semiconductor industry. Now that Ukraine is no longer able to supply this neon, there is a concern among investors that chip production could be limited in the short term. This is concerning. However, multiple chip companies have stated that they have secured large quantities of chip material before the conflict even started, and they have began diversifying away from Ukraine and Russia. So it's possible that this reduction in chip material supply may not affect chip production significantly. However, we have to keep this concern in mind. I believe that this all will only have a short-term impact. In the long term, new suppliers will arrive in the market, suppliers who will provide the chip industry with the necessary chip material needed. It should also be remembered that the military needs chips. They need chips for their equipment. They need more chips and better quality chips for their newest equipment. So the demand for chips is extraordinarily high, and it's likely that entire countries will invest in the chip industry. So I wouldn't be too concerned about this supply issue in the long term. I do believe that the short-term issues will be resolved and that demand will continue to increase in the long term. In the short term, there might be a reduction in the production of chips, but this should only be a short-term impact. In the long term, all of this concern should be resolved. Now I'd like to talk about Intel. As you can see from Yahoo Finance, Intel has beaten all 4 of its quarterly earnings last year. However, the estimate for its first quarterly earning this year is lower than the estimate for its first quarterly earning last year. This is likely due to the concern about the conflict. In terms of the share price, at the beginning of the pandemic, the share price was at 63, and unfortunately we haven't seen a significant increase in the share price during this period. In terms of their financial statement, the first thing I'd like to talk about is their income. As you can see, Intel has experienced a decline in income from 21,000 to 19,000. This is not good. We'd like to see a rise in income and not a decrease. And hopefully we'll see that in the near future. The next thing I'd like to talk about is their investment activity. Intel increased its investment activity from negative 14,000 to 25,000. This increase in investment activity is likely linked to the company's expansion plans into Europe. Intel announced that it plans to invest 80 billion euros across Europe. This investment aims to increase the company's profit from the increasingly higher demand for chips. And hopefully this massive investment will benefit the company and will cause an increase in revenue and in income. For now, we have to wait and see what happens. Finally, I'd like to talk about their financial activity. As you can see, the financial activity experienced a drastic decrease from negative 17,000 to negative 5,000. It's very likely that the company has decreased its purchase of its own shares, and this explains the decline in share price. And it's likely that the share price won't increase in the near future. Now, let us now rate Intel. I'm placing Intel in the careful section. The reason why is because their income has experienced a decline, and I'd like to see how their investment activity in Europe works, how it works out for them. Hopefully, if the investment is worth it, then hopefully we'll see an increase in revenue and an increase in income. But for now, we have to wait and see how the company deals with their investment activity. As for the Intel has stated that they have secured large quantities of chip material, so they shouldn't be too affected by the current conflict. If that is the case, hopefully we won't see a decline in production of their chips. and hopefully they will become more profitable in the future. That is all I have to say about Intel. In the next video, I'll talk about Qualcomm and Nvidia. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like and subscribe. And see you next time.